So we're at Bethel AME Church. It was not built here. It actually was built in Black Bottom. So but it was moved here, of course, as everything got moved out of Black Bottom in Paradise Valley. But Bethel AME is a very important church. Of course, here it tells you in 1839, a group of black Detroit citizens formed the Colored Methodist Society. If you know anything about the Colored Methodist and African Methodist Episcopal Church, you know that Richard Allen in the 1700s, abolitionist in Philadelphia, got tired of being discriminated against in the white Methodist Church. Him and a number of others started the Free African Society, and those members of the Free African Society started 3 churches. One, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, started by Richard Allen. The other one, African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, started by Absalom Jones. And the Colored Methodist Episcopal started by James Berry. So you had 3 Paradise Valley. They were all, Black Bottom was a residential district primarily. I mean, there were businesses in Black Bottom, but there was primarily a place where people lived. People didn't live in Paradise Valley. It was a business and entertainment district. So you had clubs, theaters, restaurants, hotels. That's what you had in Paradise Valley. It was the happening spot. But it was owned by black people. Because of the racial restrictive covenants, black people couldn't go out there and have businesses and homes. And because the banks didn't loan money to black people got their money to start their business from 2 sources: the churches and the gamblers in the underground economy. So the people who were the gangsters, because there was no Michigan State Lottery. You played the numbers, the street numbers. And the street numbers, of course, so we talked about how the foundation of the Anglican Church, we talked about how that happened. And here's Washington, who enslaved 250 Africans on this plantation, Mount Vernon. And Mount Vernon, when Washington became president, the presidential house, there was no such thing as the White House yet. The presidential house was in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia had a gradual emancipation law. If you stayed in Philadelphia for 30 days, you were free. While a lot of the abolitionist movement is in Philadelphia. The Free African Society, the African Meeting House, all that stuff is in Philly, because of its early abolitionist laws and black people saying, this is a spot, I'm being here.
Colonial town.
Colonial town. Well, no, this is early United States after the Revolution. So 1780s, early 1800s. So when he becomes president, he brings his house enslaved Africans with him. He brings them into Philly, and they're supposed to get free. So what he does is he rotates them every 28 days. So 28 days, he sends them back to Virginia, brings 2 more from Virginia. He keeps them rotating to get around the gradual abolition law. And this is George Washington, you can't tell a lie. Father of the country. That's him. But I didn't come here for him, so let's go. It was the Ford Auditorium. And why we care about this is that Malcolm X gave what is known as the last message at the Ford Auditorium, 1965, February 14th, 1 week before he was assassinated. Yep. My brother's birthday too.
I have that speech.
Yep. The last message he gave right here in Detroit. It was the real name of that program was the first annual Scholarship and Dignity preparation presentation, something like that. And of course, one of the chief organizers of this was the Reverend Albert Cleave, who is now known as Jeramogi Abebe Ajiman, founder of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, Shrine of the Black Madonna, who was a good friend of Malcolm X. You understand that. And this is the beginning. This 1962 is kind of what I consider the beginning of the rift between Malcolm's view of what the Nation of Islam ought to be doing and the view of many in the leadership, other parts of the leadership. Malcolm was. Now, many of the ministers of the Nation of Islam tried to keep their speeches about the religion, about being good parents, about raising your children, a typical minister sermonic teachings from the Nation of Islam. Women being modest and men being good providers, and Allah is our God and Muhammad is his messenger. Elijah Muhammad is who they mean when they say that. But Malcolm would say that, but he always would add this political edge. Bingo, organizer of the Brush Park Association, fighter against Illich. Of course, he threatened her life, so she had to disappear for a while. That's Gwen Mingo. If you don't know, Joe Foster Jr. is dead, and his girlfriend died 3 months later because they refused to sell their land to Illich.
Yeah, how they died?
They were shot. Both of them were shot to death. Both of them got shot. And so that's Gwen Mingo.
What did Illich say about threatening her life? When Illich threatened her life, what did he say?
Well, his people, he didn't do it. He basically said that you're a problem, and we remove problems. So she disappeared. You hadn't heard for a while. You was hearing about Gwen Mingo every week if you read the Michigan Citizen. You was hearing about every Wali Muhammad. This is, at one time, this was part of the Nation of Islam, and it was temple number 1 from about 1952 to 1976. Of course, when Imam Waziruddin Wallace Muhammad, when he moves the Nation of Islam to Sunni Islam, he takes on the name Imam Waziruddin Muhammad, and he changes the name from temple number 1 to Masjid Wali Muhammad. And this has been a Sunni Orthodox Muslim prayer home since the 1970s. But if you watch the film, The Hate That Hate produced in 1959, which was a documentary or a shockumentary on the Nation of Islam, it kind of was meant to scare white people. That was what Mike Wallace's point was. Trying to scare white that there's some black people out here who think you're the devil. So in 1959, when the shockumentary Hate That Hate produced was made, and they show a mosque, most of the time that they're showing a mosque, it is this one. It was, of course, temple number 1, and the University of Islam was also housed here, which was the school for the members of the Nation of Islam. Malcolm X was paroled in 1952. He moved in with his brother. This is the house. He moved into this house at 4336 William Street in Inkster. He got a job at Ford Motor Company in Wayne, which is not that far from Inkster, in Wayne, Michigan. And he lived with his brother Wilfred. Wilfred is his older brother, and one of the brothers that introduced him to the Nation of Islam. The brothers that introduced Malcolm to the Nation of Islam while he was in prison was Wilfred, Filbert, and Reginald. All right, Wilfred was his older brother. Actually, Wilfred and Filbert are older than Malcolm. Reginald is his younger brother. But Wilfred is the oldest out of them all. He's the oldest of all the children. And Malcolm wrote a, he wasn't born in Michigan. But he lived here in the 1930s. His father was, of course, murdered. We're going to talk about his murder after we're done reading the Markham. His father was a minister, Earl Little. He was killed on the Michigan Avenue streetcars. Family, because of after he died, Louise was unable to get insurance payout because of her husband's death. Even though they had been paying insurance, she couldn't get a settlement from the insurance company because they claimed this was a suicide. So because they claimed it was a suicide, they refused to pay her any money. So family she was unable to support the family, and the family got separated. Two oldest, Wilfred and Hilda, stayed here. Maybe they just decided to change the name.
Was it ever Malcolm?
But this was Pleasant Grove Elementary when Malcolm went here.
Oh,
It is now Pleasant View Magnet School. This is Pleasant Grove Elementary. The name is changed. Yeah, this the specific focus here is the arts. The specific focus at Pleasant View is the arts. The name has changed. Maybe it's just coincidence, you know. They just happened to change it. The street is still named Pleasant Grove. But as you go through here at the city of Lansing, you'll see that little by little, little things keep being done that diminish the history of Malcolm X ever being here. The two other places that he lived, of course, there's nothing there about at those. We won't be going to those. But the two other places that Malcolm X lived, there's no marker or nothing there to even signify that he ever went there.
The place where his father
If you
died.
go into the school here on this intersection, he was killed by members of the Black Legion. And I already told you earlier that he went out that night against Louise Little's wishes. She just felt what many people call a premonition that something bad was going to happen. She told him not to go out, but they needed the money. So he went out to get the money that night, and he was killed. A streetcar ran straight this way, and then another streetcar ran this way. So you get off one streetcar, and then you catch the other streetcar probably on that side of the road at that time. So his head lay right here, or maybe in the middle somewhere, but the streetcar that took it off was coming this way. So this is the time to let it all go. And go to the next stage in peace, with our spirits intact and our minds right. We're not gonna hold on to whatever it is that's been destroying us all this time, and we just haven't been aware of it. Ashe.